Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out to today's partner sessions. We're super excited to have Jenn Bane here with us today, who will be talking about comedy writing, pranks, and friendship, some of the key components for creating a lasting brand impression. My name's Sarah Chisholm, and I'm a content marketer here at Shopify, and I'll be moderating today's session. For those of you having to cut out halfway through the presentation, or your connection drops, or anything like that, we'll be recording the webinar and providing everyone with a copy in about a week or two. Now on to our host. I'm proud to introduce Jenn Bane. Jenn is the community lead at Cards Against Humanity, co-host of a podcast on mental health and friendship called Friendshipping, and organizer of Cards Against Humanity's Science Ambassador Scholarship. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them throughout the presentation using the questions panel. We'll try to answer them near the end of the session. Also, if you're live tweeting throughout the presentation, make sure to @mention Shopify partners and @JennDangerous. We'd love to see your insights. So now I'll hand over the reins to Jenn, so just bear with me for one moment. And there we go.
Hey.
Hey.
Are we all going okay here?
We're good to go.
Cool, you can see my screen and everything?
Yep.
Great. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Of course, as soon as I opened this screen, my dog came over. So if you hear someone tapping around, it's her. I'm in my apartment. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I'm the community lead of Cards Against Humanity. I'm from Chicago. Before I begin talks, I always like to establish a few things. One, this will be weird. This will likely be one of the weirder talks you've ever heard. And if I end up being wrong about that, like if someone outweirds me at another conference or something, please let me know, because I bet that person and I would make good friends. So my talk is about comedy writing, pranks, and friendship, and how these relate to messaging and branding and other buzzwords like that. Another thing to establish, my talk will not include advice. I'm not going to talk about coding or UX or how to run a business or anything like that. Instead, I'm going to show you some tools and ideas that we use at Cards Against Humanity, talk about our pranks, some weird stuff we managed to pull off. I'll offer you some questions you can answer for yourself, and maybe you can borrow some of our methods. More likely, you will see some of the things we've done and be like, that would absolutely never work at my job, but maybe that's helpful too. To start, let me explain how this black and white box went from being a basement hobby project into something recognizable. If you're not familiar, Cards Against Humanity, it's a simple question-answer card game. We call it a party game for horrible people because the jokes in it are dark and it has some bad words. It was first created by 8 friends who grew up together in a suburb of Chicago, and here they are as children. I show this picture as often as I can, and they don't know that I have it. Cards Against Humanity started as basically an inside joke between this group that got wildly out of control. One year they were home from college on winter break, about to attend a New Year's Eve party, when they wrote down a first draft of Cards Against Humanity on paper, and they paid about $20 to make copies at Kinko's, a coffee shop. The game was received well at the party. Friends enjoyed it, so they began thinking of ways to get the game out into the world for more people to play. They shared the entire game as a PDF online that you can print at home for free, and we still do offer that PDF. From here, the game started to develop a small underground following online, and something weird started happening. Emails began pouring in from people who wanted to buy the game instead of make it themselves. Around this time, a new service called Kickstarter was making waves. Kickstarter is the most, in my opinion, most incredible platform for independent creators. It's the foundation of everything we do, and my job would not exist without it, that's for sure. So the Kickstarter project was posted in December 2010 and asked for $4,000 to meet a print minimum to put the game on, better cards with better card stock, more quality. In the end, the project had 768 backers and ended up receiving $15,000. The extra funding went toward creating more cards, a bigger game, more quality card stock, and they put the rest of the extra sets up on Amazon. And to make a longer story short, Cards Against Humanity is the top-selling, best-reviewed, and most wished-for toy game on Amazon. We're in about 100 independent game stores and Target locations everywhere, and we ship everywhere on the planet now. So the question I am most often asked is how? Like, how did I end up at Cards Against Humanity? And I think people ask because they don't really believe that we are a real business, which I completely understand. So this is my meet cute with Cards Against Humanity. A meet cute is an old-fashioned, pretty heteronormative term that describes how a fictional couple meets, usually in a movie. It's usually in an adorable or ridiculous way. And I use the term meet cute because honestly, I did fall in love with my job. I am in love with it. There are two really good love stories in my life, and this is one of them. But before the love story began, I was studying journalism. I graduated right when the economy was tanking in the United States. It was a pretty fascinating time to be studying journalism, especially in a major city like Chicago. Every single newspaper in the country was hemorrhaging money. There were no jobs, especially in print, to be found. So I accepted the first job I could. It was a very traditional office job, old school in every way, where it was basically a glorified call center. I bothered people on the phone for about 9 hours a day. There were cubicles, artificial lighting. It was a soul-sucking place. And to keep my sanity, I threw myself into side projects. The biggest side project of all was my blog. I created this weird challenge for myself. I would write a blog entry every single day for an entire year. It didn't matter what I was writing about. I just had to hit publish before midnight each night. Sometimes I wrote 3 words. Sometimes I wrote paragraphs. The one thing that was true about all the entries was that I was not good writing. I just did it every single day, sharing stories and like funny things I'd witness. It kind of felt like I was living a double life. I would do my day job like a normal person and then go home and write jokes about it on the internet. One thing I did do a lot of was complain. I did a lot of complaining on this blog. And I did a lot of very dumb things to occupy my brain, and I wrote them down. Like one day I counted how many times I got up from my desk to use the restroom, and I had a liter of ginger ale, and the count got up to something ridiculous like 30. It was very weird. I didn't advertise my blog. I didn't make a cent from it. Maybe 50 people read it, most of whom were just my friends. My friends fully admitted they would hit Control F and search for their own name because they liked reading my blog to see what nice things I was saying about them. So you can imagine my surprise when I learned that of the maybe 50 people who read my blog, that's a generous estimate, one of them was a co-creator of Cards Against Humanity. Of course, I knew about the game, and we'd met a few times, but I hadn't spoken to him in about a year, and I did not know he was reading my blog. But after about a year of doing this every day, I received this email. We're thinking of hiring a community manager. Want to quit your job and come work for us? And all of my infinite wisdom and, smoothness and wit, this is how I decided to reply. Holy shit, yes, what's a community manager? Now let's get into the fun stuff. My role at Cards Against Humanity has been building the character behind it. The company was already successful in making and selling a funny game, and now it was time for the company to have a voice. Here's how we looked at it. We borrowed the same method as Stephen Colbert. As a comedian, he is in character and he's out of character. I'm out of character when I'm writing a blog post about our process or giving a talk like I am right now. We're in character when we're online talking to fans. And this kind of relates to branding because most people think of a brand as something simple and concrete like a logo or a typeface or colors or whatever. A smarter way to think about a brand is to understand it as the sum of all the feelings and all the interactions that a person has with your company. At Cards Against Humanity, we think about our brand as a relationship that we have with a customer in the same way that you have a relationship with a friend. And like friendships, brand relationships are way messier and more complicated than people want to admit. Like do me a favor and think of the real world relationships you have with your friends or colleagues. And sometimes your friends aren't willing to put in the same amount of work into a relationship that you are. Some friends you don't want to hang out with one-on-one. Sometimes you get sick of each other. Your friends each have a mix of positive and negative attributes that you can easily describe in an emotional way, like needy or generous or hilarious or asked to borrow your car too often. Like there's a way to describe each of your friends, and hopefully it's in a nice way. And that's also how it works with brands. The truth is people rarely have simple feelings about brands. Marketing consultants will try to tell you otherwise, but they're probably lying or selling you something. So if our brand was an actual person, they would probably be someone who is blunt and sarcastic, rebellious, left-leaning, self-deprecating, maybe even depressed, a little bit like April Ludgate from Parks and Rec. That's the closest approximation I can think of. And we are very lucky that we get to use the voice of this character almost everywhere, even in our customer service emails. We sell on Amazon, and we also sell on our own web store too, which means all of that customer service is handled by us. I have a team of comedy writers, and we just go to town. Obviously, when it comes to answering emails, customer service emails, the first priority is to help the customer, but the second priority is to make a joke, often at their expense. So we always have to balance in our writing being funny with also being dismissive and weird and surprising and helpful. And I'll show you some examples of some of my favorite emails. I've copied these from our inbox. When will Cards Against Humanity be back in stock? Get your shit together and hurry up. And this is how my colleague Josh decided to reply. Cards Against Humanity will be back in stock at some point. We could have been more specific, but you could have been nicer. Here's another one. Hey, I have a friend who said if we email you and donate money, you will send us a card with whatever we want on it, question mark, question mark. And this is how my person on my team, Claire, decided to reply. Your friend is full of shit. Simple, elegant, love it. Here's a long one. Hi, Ka. So I'm getting married soon. Please do not say congratulations. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to start cracking skulls. And I'm inquiring about fancy printed blank cards. I want them for my wedding reception for my guests to fill out. Can I special order 200 blank white cards and 50 blank black cards? And this is the easiest reply ever. I answered this email immediately. Congratulations. This person made it really easy. And here's my last one. Will you just send me a game for free? I could use a laugh. And there's only one clear answer to this, which is, well, we could really use $25. And by the way, I think we did end up sending that person a free game because they amused us. We write like this because we're not actually business people. We're just weird people trying to make things and write comedy. Cards Against Humanity was born in a basement, and it should still feel that way. I encourage everyone on my writing team at Cards to write and speak honestly, and anything that sounds like robotic or unnatural does not belong in an email. You'll also notice our email replies are very short, and as I mentioned, I went to journalism school and fell into crushing debt, but I also learned how to write very concisely. Academia usually teaches the opposite. Students are supposed to meet page counts and write complicated sentences and use big words to sound smart, but we copy the journalism school method. The shorter, the better. I teach our interns that every single word is optional until it proves otherwise. We edit and keep editing until the point of the email is just undeniable, the joke is undeniable, because I don't think any email was ever improved by making it longer. And here's my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes about writing. Clutter is the official language of corporations to hide their mistakes. I love this quote. Through our customer service, our years of writing this way, we've learned that customers want to speak with a person, not a robot. And making a joke is definite proof that they're a thinking, breathing human who is just like them. So naturally, this character that we've created loves to pull pranks. At Cards, we've never really spent money on traditional marketing or advertising. We always use unconventional methods to try and create a funny, memorable experience for fans. We think of our stunts kind of like an improv scene, like we set up the joke and then we let fans participate and run away with it and take the scene over. And as a company, we really hate Black Friday. For the last few years, we've closed down our entire online store to do something surprising and weird and delightful. For example, for Black Friday 2014, we took down Cards Against Humanity. You couldn't buy it because we decided to sell bullshit. I hope it's okay that I'm swearing in this webinar. I won't do much more of it, I promise. So yes, we sold bullshit. We were brainstorming, and we came up with the idea to sell actual poop to people. The idea made us laugh, and we've learned to trust our instincts in this situation. If we laugh at it, there's a good chance it'll resonate with other people in the same way. So we did some research and found that cow poop can be bought and sold in mail as an industrial product. So we contacted a cattle rancher in Texas. Her name is Amy, and this is what Amy had to say. I was surprised that somebody wanted 30,000 pieces of crap, but it is what it is. So she wasn't particularly surprised. She was cool with it. So poop was collected from bulls, sterilized, sorted into boxes by one of our mailing houses. We designed a completely new storefront, very simple, on brand. Here's what it looked like. And here's a photo of the actual poop. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a photo of the poop ready, but it really most just looks like dirt. It doesn't even really smell bad. So we wanted the poop to be packaged in a really high quality and classy way. It's actually the same packaging that Apple products come in, which I think is pretty funny. It's a visual pun on a jewelry box, if you can see the box right there. It feels like something special and magical might be waiting for you inside, but it's just poop. Here's the best part. We sold out of bullshit boxes in a few hours. We made a total profit of $6,000, and we donated it all. We donated it to Heifer International, an organization that buys livestock for families in developing countries. I encourage you to check them out. They're incredible. Speaking of bullshit, let's talk about Donald Trump for a little bit. Even though we are a comedy writing company, we haven't spoken much about Donald Trump until very recently, because the truth is we kept waiting for him to go away. For a year straight, we were receiving tweets and emails and requests to put jokes about him into our game or call him out or do something, but we just sincerely hoped that Donald Trump would fade away by the time any new cards could go into print. But he has not faded away, so now we feel that we have a moral imperative to speak out. At first, we didn't know exactly how to do it. It was kind of a problem for us. We didn't want to make stupid jokes about his hair or something like that, because everyone does that, and joking about his hair hasn't done any damage to his reputation, and he terrifies us. And that fear is how we came up with the idea for the Donald Trump bug out bag. The day Donald Trump received the presidential nomination, we started talking about how we should start building a bunker and get bottles of water and supplies ready to prepare for the end of the world. And that's when we had the aha moment. That's where the joke was. Someone should make a bug out bag for when Donald Trump ruins the country, and the someone, it's us. We should do it. It was really fun deciding what products to put in the bag. We went with a gas mask, a can of beans, a crank radio, a flashlight. My favorite was a locket with a photo of President Obama in it. Side note, this is the only product we have where my 2-year-old niece has been able to enjoy it. Here she is wearing a locket of Obama and playing with the gas mask. She likes the locket a lot and even has to sleep with it some nights. She does not know who Obama is. I think there's just something about him that she inherently trusts. We had to move very quickly on this product, quicker than anything we've ever put together. We had the idea on a Monday and opened the project on a Friday or something ridiculous like that, and that's why the website you don't see product photos. We didn't have any. We had to hire an illustrator to draw what would go into the bag because nothing was made yet. In the end, we sold out of 10,000 bug out bags in about 2 hours, and for the first time ever, it crashed our website. That's never happened. We've never crashed before. We have done many similar launches, but this was the first time we basically broke ourselves. And although we were panicking a little bit, it actually kind of fit the narrative pretty well. People weren't too angry. Fans kept tweeting at us saying things like, "Oh no, did Donald Trump's secret police shut you down? Please be safe." This was my favorite tweet of the day. Make CAS servers great again. More recently, we released 2 new expansion packs about the election. We called this campaign America Votes with Cards Against Humanity. We designed a website that allows you to choose which expansion pack you will buy and who you will support. But not really. This is the joke. Today, we're letting America choose between 2 new expansion packs. At the end of this promotion, Cards Against Humanity will tally up the sales of both packs, and depending on which pack gets more support, we will donate all the money in support of Hillary Clinton. I worked closely with our design team on this project, and we figured that the joke worked best if every element on the page supported this single line. The joke is, we're playing it straight. The joke is, there is no joke. It looks like a real hipster campaign website. And the hierarchy of information is equal here. Clinton versus Trump, it kind of feels like there's something at stake. Like, who will you support? But in the end, it doesn't matter. The money is going in support of Hillary. This is my personal favorite part of the website, the descriptions of the candidates. I like the drawings a lot. With the funds we've raised, we have created a super PAC to attack Donald Trump, which includes designing billboards. And there's a billboard we put up in Chicago, and this is what it looks like. Trump is so rich, how come he didn't buy this billboard? Trump doesn't pay taxes.com. We have plans to put up different billboards up in swing states. You can do some Googling and see what else we're up to. But I can't talk too much about it because Donald Trump is probably going to sue us. That said, we are more than just a poop and prank business. This is actually my favorite project, the Science Ambassador Scholarship. Here's the backstory. We launched an expansion pack called the Science Pack. It's made up of 30 science-themed cards. We knew we wanted the sales of this pack to fund some kind of nonprofit, but we couldn't find any nonprofits that felt exactly right and fit our values and got us excited. So we decided that with the funding we were hoping to get, directly funding in education would have the greatest impact. So we created the Science Ambassador Scholarship. All of the proceeds of the pack go toward our full ride scholarship for a woman studying STEM. And targeting the scholarship to women was pretty obvious to us. It was a no-brainer. Several of us at Cards have background in science and in tech, and the underrepresentation of women in STEM is a glaring problem that we've experienced firsthand. This project also marks the first time where we had to fight against our voice and brand. We needed to make it clear that we weren't joking, we're sincere, there are no gimmicks involved, it's just it's a real organization. I think we succeeded because I've only ever had 2 reporters call me and ask if the scholarship was a joke. It is not a joke, it's not a prank, we're really doing it. And if you know any young women in high school or college that are studying STEM, applications are now open. And they close December 11th, so all the details you need to apply are at scienceambassadorscholarship.org. And last year we received 1,000 applications, which is a wonderful number, but I think it should be 3 times that number. And that's still not a very big number, so if you know anyone who fits this criteria, please show them this website and have them apply. Their chances are actually really good. So now that I've talked a lot about our pranks and our stunts and some things we're excited about, I want to show you an awesome little tool that we've used. It didn't exist when Cards Against Humanity, when we first created Cards Against Humanity, but we use it all the time for our side projects, and it's called the brand deck. And it's a little exercise that will help you identify the characteristics of your brand. We didn't make it. I'm just excited about it. How it works is simple. You round up a few people to play. Each person is responsible for a set of cards that have an adjective on either side of the card. The adjectives tend to compete with one another. Like one side says complex and the other says simple. Players will select cards that should describe how you want to be perceived by your audience. And I love this little exercise because it forces you to make a decision. Like, is your brand quiet or is it energetic? It probably can't be both. And it makes your whole team get on the same page, which is actually pretty hard to do when you're building a brand or starting a project or figuring out your voice. I mean, not everyone can like pull a stunt where you sell poop to people. In fact, I recommend not doing that. I think there's only one way you can get away with that, and unfortunately we already did it. So this is a good starting point, a good jumping off point to see what kind of stunts and pranks and campaigns you can get away with that fits your voice. And you can get a set at branding.cards. Before we close out this section, I want to leave you with a question. I said I wasn't going to give you advice, and I'm still not. Instead, when it comes to your personal projects, I think it's really important to ask yourself all the time, possibly every single day, if you are focusing on the right things. Make sure you are putting your energy and effort where it really counts for your project or your brand. Here's what I mean. We get a lot of emails asking for business and marketing advice, especially from people who are interested in running their own Kickstarter projects. It seems like people really want to know how to market their project, how to position, how to write about it. We're asked questions like, how long should my Kickstarter video be? How many minutes? How often should I post about it on social media? How do I get a celebrity to tweet about it? And the answer is always, that depends. There are no one-size-fits-all solutions when it comes to marketing your products. And these aren't ideas like asking a celebrity to tweet about your project will not make your project successful. It is one of maybe 500 possibilities that can make your project successful. And instead of trying to get celebrities to tweet, what you should be doing instead is making your project amazing. The marketing and talking and explaining and building the brand of your project actually isn't too hard if the project you're working on is already exciting and great. Okay, so that's my lecture. Now that you've seen all the stunts and pranks and ridiculous things we do publicly, I want to talk a little bit about what's truly special about Cards Against Humanity. It's the stuff that no one gets to see. It's what happens in our office, because we are not our brand, as you will see. We have a co-working space here in Chicago. We own the building, but the space is not ours. There's about 20 of us full-time, but there are about 45 people in the office. We share the space with amazing designers, developers, artists, writers, photographers, even an urban beekeeper. That means we are sitting directly next to people who are busy with their own projects or their own Kickstarters or their own freelance work, and that has nothing to do with Cards Against Humanity. Personally, I believe that's our biggest strength as a business. We certainly could have an office to ourselves, but then we would spend all day thinking about Cards Against Humanity, and writing this game would suddenly become the most important thing in the world, and it's not. Our greatest strength is that we are surrounded by people who are humble and creative and kind and much smarter than us. There are people who are working, but there are also people playing video games or board games. Our office is always buzzing with someone like cooking meals, or we're always making coffee, and there's no hierarchy of whoever makes the coffee every day. At any given moment, there's someone to take a walk with or bounce ideas off of. You can always find help there. And to me, the space really feels less like an office and more like a Hogwarts common room, because it's kind of magical and buzzing with activity all the time, and people are always getting into mischief. Some cool things that happen in our office. We ask guest speakers to come in and teach us things. We had an astrophysicist who came and taught us about the sun and solar flares. This is my colleague Carly giving us an incredible lecture about feminism relating to the Kardashians. It was so informative and awesome. Another day, we were eating lunch together, and we started talking about we started asking how long it would take someone to eat an entire head of lettuce. I don't know how this came up. But that week, we decided to hold a lettuce eating contest. It was a very tight race. One of our interns was ultimately the winner. He ate an entire head of lettuce in about 10 minutes without dressing or olive oil or anything. It was pretty gross. Another cool thing, small but fun, we have a push-up club. We meet to do push-ups at 4:20 each day. We're a dog-friendly office. This is my best pal Trin playing with my other best pal, my dog, who's sitting at my feet right now. My personal favorite part of the office is our podcast studio. We made a space for other folks to come and record podcasts. And I mentioned my best pal Trin. We have a podcast together called Friendshipping. It's about friendship and mental health. Each week we take audience questions and answer things like, should I ask my friend why she unfollowed me on Twitter? Or why am I so jealous of my successful friends? And I admit this is a shameless plug, but it is a really, really fun side project. Probably the best thing about Cards Against Humanity is how supported I feel when it comes to working on my own stuff, working on my own thing, pursuing something I'm passionate about. And I'm super passionate about my friendship with Trin because she's the most hardworking and amazing person I've ever met. And I'm really excited that I get to every week talk into a microphone with her. So friendshippingpodcast.com. That was my shameless plug. Thank you for indulging me. So the most important thing when it comes to our workspace is we have a rule, a really important one. It's if you have the ability to teach something to someone else who wants to learn it, you have to do it. It can be anything, like cooking or coding or design or your project on Kickstarter. It doesn't matter. For example, one skill I offer is editing. I love editing writing. And in turn, I can't even name all the amazing things that people have helped me with. The one that comes to mind is learning to ride a bike. I can ride a bike okay, but I've never ridden one through busy city streets, and the idea kind of terrifies me. And as soon as I mentioned in the office that I wanted help with that, I had a flood of very passionate cyclists in our workspace, so eager and happy to help me out. And that kind of attitude is contagious. That really, really can make a workspace. So in the same vein, I want to show you this amazing quote I read on Twitter. It was a long time ago, actually, and I don't know this person. I just really admire their work and this quote in particular. Next time someone asks you how you got to the top of that mountain, don't just proudly display the scars on your hands. Lower a rope. Like I said, I don't know this person. I'm just immediately in love with this idea. And I know I said I wouldn't give you advice today, but I lied. There is a twist. I am going to give you advice. My one piece of advice is to bring this idea back into your own work life, because if you do, you'll be able to make some amazing things together. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. That was absolutely fantastic. We're going to go into some questions now, and I'm just going to take the screen back, so just give me one moment. Awesome. So first we have a question here from Tim. Tim asks, given the somewhat inappropriate nature of Cards Against Humanity, what challenges have you seen as you've tried promoting CA to the public, if any at all?
Oh, yeah, great question. Well, we haven't faced too many challenges because we make it very obvious what you're getting into. Every single word on the box, every single word on the website kind of tells you what we're about. The first thing you see when you go to cardsagainsthumanity.com is the cards. There's an animation of showing you what the cards say. So over the years, we've had very few people who were surprised to get Cards Against Humanity in the mail and not understand what they were about to get. That said, it does happen often around the holidays because people, like for example, off the top of my head, an aunt might want to buy something off an Amazon wish list, and they buy Cards Against Humanity, and it arrives in the mail, and they're like, oh my God, what did I just buy? What did I just buy for my nephew? So in that case, there's some confusion, but overall, people kind of understand what we're about.
Awesome, that was a great answer. So next we have a question from Jane. Jane asks, it feels like CA has a cult-like following online. What do you think was the most influential factor that led to this?
Great question. I think probably a couple things come to mind. First of all, people in the Kickstarter community are extremely passionate. And this is when Kickstarter wasn't as big as it is right now, but people really rally around projects and follow their progress and are passionate about it, so that helped. The other thing was, I think the fact that we gave the game away for free was, it seems obvious to us because the biggest marketing tool Cards Against Humanity has is just playing the game. If you play the game with your friends and you enjoy it and it makes you laugh, that's like 10 people right there that are having a good time. And that's like the best advertising we could ever ask for. And it's free because it's a free PDF online. Does that answer your question? I think probably the fact that we started on Kickstarter, we give the game away for free, and we still do that. Oh, and the other thing is people think that's so subversive that we still give the game away for free. Last Christmas, I was speaking with a family member of my boyfriend's, and she could not believe that we still give the game away for free. To her, it just blew her mind that we still do that. So I think that's probably a pretty key factor, but I don't know.
That's so awesome. So Jonathan asks, how do you stay ahead of trends and keep your product fresh?
How do we stay ahead of trends and keep? Well, I don't know. I don't know if our product is fresh anymore. Thank you for saying that. I think Cards Against Humanity has been around for quite a while, but we do take our writing very seriously, and that we edit all the cards in the game every few months. Like we take out references that aren't funny anymore or culturally relevant. Like I mentioned, we didn't want to put Donald Trump in the game because we really hoped in 6 months he would disappear, and that didn't happen. So that's why we did all those stunts. But we changed pop culture references. Like in the beginning, there was a card about Britney Spears, and we eventually switched it out for Miley Cyrus. And I think we might have switched it back to a joke about Britney Spears, just because Miley Cyrus is still not as big as Britney Spears. I'm not sure about that, but you get the idea that like culturally the conversation and what's popular changes. So we do edit the game every few months.
Awesome. And speaking about cards, Mohammed asks, what is your favorite card in the deck?
Oh boy. Okay. So I have two. I love the card Sandwich because it is ridiculous and people see that and they don't think it's funny until you play it in the game. And my other favorite card is, I'm about to say a weird word on this webinar that you probably never heard, anal beads, because it works with everything. I have this theory that like if you play it with any hand, it's a winner. You can feel free to debate me on that later, like show me some places it doesn't work, but I'm convinced that that is the most perfect card.
Yeah, you said you wouldn't give us any advice this webinar, but I think that's what I'm going to do next time I play Cards Against Humanity with my friends. So Melissa asks, how do you keep your community engaged with your brand after they've purchased the game?
Oh yeah, how do we keep the community engaged after they purchase the game? Well, you know, it's interesting because we don't like pursue things that don't make us laugh. We always pursue things that amuse us and make us laugh because we're a comedy writing company, and it just seems like a good place to start to keep people excited about the game. So every stunt that we've pulled, every like weird prank has started with us thinking it was funny. It wasn't, and then from there we expanded the joke and got together in a room and like we had the idea to sell poop, and then we all got in a room and like, how do we brand poop? How do we market this? How do we really sell this joke? So it starts with us thinking something is funny, and then if the idea grows and grows, and there are plenty of ideas that go nowhere. Like I showed you all the ones that have worked out, but there are a million that don't work out. And then from there, I kind of think we've gotten a good handle on things that get people excited and interested. Of course, we do a lot of asking our friends. Like I mentioned that the best part about The Office is that we're not around Cards Against Humanity people all the time. And it's true that we can offer jokes and ideas to our friends and see if they have any reaction to it at all.
Awesome. So Anna's asking, what is your funniest story from around the office? Have you ever had anyone react poorly to one of your more negative response emails?
Oh, okay. That's like a two-part question, right? I want to make sure I understand it.
Yes, it is. Sorry, yes.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. So the first one about The Office. I don't know how this started, but we've had this like prank slash cute thing going on for like literally 2 years now, where we buy cakes and we have like the grocery store like write something weird on the top, you know what I mean, like in the frosting, and we do it for everything, big and small. I don't know how it started. I think it might have started with Trin, my co-host on the podcast that I mentioned, because she's always the person that shows up with the cake, and we get it for everything, like anything that someone gets excited about, they'll find a cake on their desk the next day. Like my supervisor, that's such a weird word. My colleague Max, one time he was excited because on Twitter he got retweeted by an astronaut. And then the next day, actually it was like 2 hours later, Trin walked up to his desk and held out a chocolate cake that said, "Congratulations on getting retweeted by an astronaut." And another time we watched I wasn't part of this, but I did see the cake. We watched a Steve Jobs documentary, and Alex, my other colleague, got a cake that said "Steve Jobs is dead." I don't know if people think that's funny, but it was hilarious to me that there was a cake just sitting in our office that no one was reacting to because we're all so used to it right now. And I'm so sick of eating cake. I cannot even tell you. Like, oh, do not eat cake anymore. And your other question, can you remind me what the second part was?
Oh yeah, has anyone ever reacted poorly to one of your responses?
Oh, yes, another good question. Has anyone reacted poorly to our responses? Um, so I definitely consider it our responsibility to make people laugh in a way that makes them feel good. Like on my team, as I'm the community lead, and on my team of people that work with me, that's our job. And that means we have to be very thoughtful and mindful. Like we would never make fun of someone who had typos or because or like misspelled something in an email, because what if English isn't their first language? That's not very nice. You shouldn't make some fun of someone for that. What's way more likely is someone will email us and be like, I didn't get my confirmation email because I mistyped my own email address. And then we can be like, wow, that was stupid of you, huh? Um, One time we got an email from someone who said, let me think, I want to get the details right. Oh, it was around the holidays, and they said, I want to return Cards Against Humanity, the game, because my boyfriend already got it for me, and now we have two sets. And one of our interns at the time, I don't mean to put my intern on blast, but he said he gave me permission to talk about this publicly, so it's okay. He made the mistake of saying, instead of helping the customer, all he did was make the joke. He didn't make the joke and help the customer. And the joke he said was, "Well, I guess you and your boyfriend need to work on communication, huh?" And that was all he said. And I stand by the joke. I think it's pretty funny. But he also, most of that email should have been, "Sure, of course we'll help you with the return. P.S. Maybe you and your boyfriend should communicate more." Like it should have been not the bulk of the email. So that's an example of a time when close, but a swing and a miss on our part.
That's so awesome. I think that's it for questions today. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to tweet Jenn at Jenn Dangerous or at Shopify Partners, and we'll get back to you at another time. Jenn, I just wanted to thank you again so much for coming to this webinar. We've definitely learned a lot. I know I had a lot of laughs while my mic was muted. So it was definitely a great experience.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Awesome. And everyone who's still on the line, I just want to let you know about our next webinar. So it's coming up on November 9th at 1. That is a Wednesday. It's with Jeffrey Zeldman, who is the founder of A List Apart magazine, co-founder of A Book Apart and An Event Apart, and author of the industry-changing textbook, Designing with Web Standards. Registration for that is now open. If you want to check it out on the partner's new webinar page, you can just go to our blog and check that out. Thanks everyone so much again, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you so much, Jenn. Have a good one.
Thank you, Sarah. It was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.